And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akugha. Our lead story in today's package is on the influx of travelers from northern Nigeria, some of them identified as Almajiris, to the Niger Delta, despite the ban on interstate travel. Next in our lineup is the people's reaction to the investigation of an alleged misappropriation of 40 billion naira by the interim management of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC. We will, in the course of the program, bring you a special report on how the abandonment of the Niger Delta Regional Development Master Plan has impacted on the welfare of the largely backward communities in the region. And finally, in today's package, we draw the federal government's attention to the huge economic losses attendant on its inability to commence oil production in oil mining lease UML 25 after the lucrative oil block was officially reopened on the 10th of October 2019. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away.
Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, determined to make a difference.
Welcome back. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. The federal government has been called upon to beef up security along boundaries to check an influx of travelers from the northern part of the country into the Niger Delta as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to take its toll on the country. The call was made by some concerned Niger Deltans who described the insensate violation of the restriction on interstate travel as worrisome and threatening. Correspondent Ekanami Ofori completes the story.
With the COVID-19 pandemic on a steady rise in Nigeria, the federal government has since closed its air, sea and land borders. On May 27, 2020, President Muhammadu Buhari announced a restriction on interstate travel, apparently to check the spread of the deadly coronavirus disease across the country.
There will be a ban on non-essential interstate passenger travel until further notice. Partial and controlled interstate movement of goods and services will be allowed for the movement of goods and services from producers to consumers.
In violation of the presidential directive, scores of suspected Almajiris and other unidentified persons in northern Nigeria have in the last few weeks embarked on desperate journeys down south to the Niger Delta.
Ordinarily, the question would be who is behind the movement, the sudden influx of this set of persons from all the way from the north to the Niger Delta. And why is it that they are able to break the gridlocks between states? Who is giving them the pass? So it leaves a lot for security agencies to actually tell Nigerians or explain to us what is actually happening.
The government is preaching sit at home, stay at home, yet we have these people coming around. It raises an innocent suspicion. I mean, every Nigerian should be scared.
On May 12, 2020, two buses conveying 17 Almajiris were prevented from entering Yenagoa, the Bayelsa state capital. Barely 24 hours later, 23 travelers from the north were arrested in Ondo State. Before this time, two trailers conveying cattle and 14 persons from Adamawa State were intercepted and arrested in Port Harcourt for violating the COVID-19 lockdown policy.
I've been telling you people, look at what they did, look at what they're facing. In the border, the security agencies have fed us, collecting money. Look at what we're talking about. Nigerians can now see that we have been vindicated. I said it.
The incident in Rivers State coincided with the interception of some 108 persons traveling from the north to Edo State. When tested for their COVID-19 status, 3 persons were discovered to have contracted the deadly virus.
Considering the present day situation of this COVID-19 is a serious threat. Because one, when they smuggle themselves in, they are not tested. You don't know who is positive, you don't know who is negative.
Alarmed at the constant violations of the federal government COVID-19 lockdown directive, some concerned Niger Deltans are asking security operatives to live up to expectations.
What are they coming to do? People should ask. I mean, don't just send them back. Ask questions. Somebody must have brought them to this side. Those people cannot ship themselves from wherever they came from to the south. They cannot just ship from themselves to the east. Somebody moved them. In the trucks that they were contained in, somebody put them there. That truck belongs to somebody, or it belongs to a group of people. So those people should be made to answer what is going on. This is the time when we have our security agencies to do some very serious intelligence activity. Find out who is behind this. What are they after? What's their goal? What do they want to achieve? And then you can take it up from there.
The fears expressed by those calling for compliance with the federal government's COVID-19 lockdown order are not without basis. In recent weeks, the coronavirus disease has taken a huge toll on the country's population, a development that threatens to overwhelm Nigeria's ill-equipped healthcare system. The federal government and subnational governments and their agencies are expected, therefore, to adopt more stringent measures to enforce restriction on interstate travel to minimize physical contact as they strive to roll back the COVID-19 pandemic.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Introducing the new face of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. We are charting the direction for our maritime and regulating the industry for a better, bigger, and more economically stable Nigeria. Evolved to serve you better. We are NIMASA. New face, rejuvenated service. NIMASA, changing the tides in your favor.
Some frontline agitators in the ongoing campaign to sanitize the Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC) have called on the Senate to leave above board as it begins investigations into an alleged misappropriation of 40 billion naira by the Commission's Interim Management Committee. The call follows recent inauguration of a 7-man ad hoc committee by the leadership of the Senate to probe the Professor Kemebradi Kumaponde-led Interim Management Committee of the NDDC. Correspondent Lovely Ofigo has more.
In discharging its constitutional mandates to oversight government agencies, the Senate recently inaugurated an ad hoc committee to investigate an alleged financial recklessness by the NDDC. In trying to bolster public confidence in the lawmakers' action, Senate President Ahmed Lawan noted that it was to complement President Muhammadu Buhari's efforts at sanitizing the NDDC rather than scuttle an ongoing forensic audit of the commission.
We are in total support of the President's directive for the forensic audit of the finances of the NDDC. And this is in some way complementary to that directive. So at the end of this investigation, our hope is that the NDDC and indeed the Senate will continue to work together to ensure that we deliver the goods to our people in the Niger Delta.
Concurrently, the House of Representatives has equally invited the Minister for Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, alongside the NDDC Interim Management Committee over the 40 billion naira allegedly spent by the NDDC in 2 months. These probes are viewed by different people with different perspectives. While some people believe the National Assembly probes are designed to distract and derail the forensic audits of the NDDC, others believe they are indeed a reflection of the battle for political leadership in the Niger Delta.
There is a kind of power tussle between the National Assembly, more especially the Senate, and the other bodies. We must know that. I want them to be very careful. Anything they are doing, they must be truthful, because we, the masses who elected them, are watching them. At the end of the day, they will give account of what they have done to us.
Yet again, there are those who think that the actual target of the probes is the Honorable Minister for the Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Godswill Akpabio, whom they describe as an uncommon transformer.
He's the man we need at this moment. It's somebody that loves this country, he loves his people, he wants good things. You can see that, you can see for yourself anytime you step into Akwa Ibom. If you've been to Akwa Ibom before now, and then you can go back there and check what is happening. Those are, you give people things to do based on record. You can see that within months the air office of NDDC will be completed. It shows you that NDDC pays over 200 to 300 million on that building every year. And this is an agency that has gotten over close to $1 trillion, but they can't get an office. They can't build an office for themselves. And somebody is coming within months and that place is almost completed. Godswill Akpabio is a brand. You copy, you buy into a brand. You don't try to kill a brand.
As the Senate prepares to commence its probe of the NDDC, some Niger Deltans are demanding transparency from the nation's apex lawmakers as they proceed with a probe of the NDDC.
Let them start their probe. We are also working on our own. We have volume of documents of their involvement. Maybe people were just thinking that we could just pass that and move to a level of repositioning this agency. But if they want to say they will do a probe, it must be massive. That probe that they want to do, let it be that it's going to be heard live so that Nigerians will know who are the real problem in NDDC.
For Cletus Obun, a former majority leader in the Cross River State House of Assembly, the probe of the NDDC should not be personalized.
The National Assembly ought to work with the Nigerian government, which has come into office as President Buhari, on the mantra of anti-corruption. And let the National Assembly know and let Nigerians know that what is happening here is not about Godswill Akpabio, the minister. It is not about the Professor Pondi. It is about Niger Delta.
President Muhammadu Buhari, upon receiving an avalanche of complaints about endemic corruption in the NDDC, had in September last year ordered a probe into the Commission's activities over a period of 18 years of its existence. While they eagerly await the outcome of the ongoing forensic audit of the NDDC, most Niger Deltans would want the National Assembly to collaborate with the presidency to dismantle the forces of official sleaze that have bedeviled the NDDC since it began operations in 2001.
Inside the Niger Delta.
I'm 10 years Jack Rich, Sarkin Run outside, and I approve this message.
Everybody wash your hands well with soap and water well. Make we use sanitizer well and stay for our house well. Engineer Jack Rich say make we support the government to fight coronavirus to stay alive. My people, coronavirus no be scam o. Anybody fit get am. Make we stay safe, avoid crowd, wash our hand for at least 20 seconds for water where they run. Make we no near each other too much. If your body or any person body around you they overhot, they cough anyhow or no they breathe normal, make una rush to the nearest health center for checkup. Make we no fear, because fear fit make our body weak to fight against this virus. Stay safe. Second one house. Engineer Jack Rich, so make we fight coronavirus to stay alive. This message now from Engineer Jack Rich Jr., Second Ruwan Hausa, President and Founder, Belema Oil.
As the federal government moves to sanitize the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, advocates of sustainable development in the Niger Delta have underscored the need to strengthen and reposition the Commission to effectively carry out its mandate as an intervention agency created to transform the region. To this end, they are calling for an immediate implementation of the Niger Delta Regional Development Master Plan, which has been largely ignored by successive administrations in the Commission over the years. Correspondent Ekena Miofuri has the report.
Shortly after it was established to intervene in the crisis of underdevelopment plaguing the Niger Delta, the NDDC came up with the Niger Delta Regional Development Master Plan, which was conceived as a comprehensive blueprint for the region's sustainable development. The plan was designed to drastically reduce poverty through improved productivity in agriculture, micro and small-scale enterprises, infrastructure development, and industrialization of the Niger Delta. For the NDDC, it was a work plan to be implemented in 3 phases over a period spanning 2005 and 2020.
The proposal is for improved infrastructure and access and qualitative education. In the same token, we health, and so in places where we have complete absence, we need to do quite a lot, at different levels of intervention. Agriculture also, by proposing efficient practices in agriculture. One of the deliverables of the plan is also to see that there are big ticket transactions going on. See, what has happened is that there are no big things that can take 1,000 people at the time or 5,000 people working at the time. In the civilized economy, this happened. What about regional railway? That there is a railway traversing from Calabar through Akwa Ibom to Port Harcourt to Bayelsa to Delta and all to Ondo. What about that? What about the regional route from Calabar to Lagos that cuts across all our states?
To the collective dismay of Niger Deltans, successive managers in the NDDC abandoned the Regional Development Master Plan as soon as the Commission's third Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Timi Alaibe, left office in 2009.
Since then, insofar as I'm concerned, the document has been lying on the shelf. There has been very little attempt to even look at it. So the question of talking about poor implementation does not arise. It is complete non-implementation of that master plan. One cardinal key issue that the master plan enjoined was stakeholder collaboration and partnering, where the NDDC as a federal institution for the Niger Delta development is integrated with the role of the states, the local government, and the communities. And it emphasizes the issue of the bottom-up approach in conception of projects and its implementation. Completely that has not happened, and so it has not been implemented.
The outcome of non-implementation of the Niger Delta Regional Development Master Plan over the years has been an uncoordinated approach to the region's transformation. In March this year, when President Muhammadu Buhari met with governors of 9 states of the Niger Delta, Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa had equally underscored the need for the NDDC to follow the Regional Development Master Plan to accelerate the pace of development in the region.
The NDDC has already a master plan of the region, which was done sometime, and it is only when they work with the states and the states have inputs and they also understand what the states are doing that we can truly ensure that the master plan is actually followed through to the letters, working collaboratively. For the regional projects, which we expect that the NDDC will undertake, that working collaboratively with the states, it is actually possible to bring faster development of our people, because it's possible for us to even have a shared input and supportively provide resources for development of regional projects. I believe that working collaboratively, that we would be able to get the Niger Delta to take on high-ticket projects that could bring greater value to our people.
In a seminal research entitled Making the Niger Delta Work, a development scholar in the region, Pius Ugakboteni, blames the prevailing culture of poor service delivery by the NDDC on lack of commitment to the Regional Development Master Plan. Interestingly, the scholar's position on the way forward for the Niger Delta is a reflection of the collective aspiration of change advocates in the region.
It's a document, if implemented, would actually make the region a safe haven, would actually bring about the much needed growth and development in the Niger Delta. I believe that one day people will come that have the genuine interest of the region at heart to implement the Niger Delta Master Plan, which is one of the surest way in which we can turn the challenges of the region into windows of opportunities for our people who have been disillusioned and impoverished by successive governments.
In 20 years, the same time NDDC has been here, nurturing poverty for the Niger Delta people and throwing money into the pockets of the political elite for the same length of time. China, that does not produce 1 barrel of commercial crude oil, built over 26 refineries. So if the NDDC is determined to refocus, it will mobilize all the attention of the political elites in the Niger Delta to focus on building an economy for this place, production hubs.
For advocates of sustainable development in the Niger Delta, the ongoing forensic audit of the NDDC is most welcome, as it is expected to rid the Commission of all forms of sharp practices that have rendered it comatose over the years. However, they want the federal government to take drastic measures to redirect the Commission's activities to begin to focus on its mandate as an intervention agency. Hence, the call for an immediate update and subsequent implementation of the Niger Delta Regional Development Master Plan.
Inside the Niger Delta.
7 months after the federal government reopened oil mining lease OML 25 for immediate commencement of oil production in October 2019, the facility remains shut till date, depriving the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation NNPC and its joint partners, including the host communities, significant revenues. The following commentary takes a look at implications of leaving the highly lucrative oil and gas facility dormant in almost 3 years.
In August 2017, angry women from Belema, Ofonyama and Ngeje, all host communities of OML 25, shut down the Belema flow station and gas plant and occupied the facility. Their demand from the federal government was a transfer of ownership and operatorship of OML 25 from Shell Petroleum Development Company (SPDC) to Belema Oil Producing Limited, an indigenous oil giant owned by one of their own, Engineer Jack Rich Tain Jr., which already had a stake on the oil mining lease. There was palpable tension on OML 25 as SPDC and Belema Oil locked horns over the operatorship of the Belema flow station and gas plant. It had taken the timely intervention of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timmy Praise Silva, to pour oil on the troubled waters of OML 25 shortly after he assumed office. Through the initiative of Nigeria's junior petroleum minister, Timmy Praise Silva, the dispute on the operatorship of OML 25 was successfully resolved at a peace parley in Abuja in September 2019. Under the peace accord, it was agreed that Shell Petroleum Development Company and Belema Oil jointly operate the oil facility. In line with the agreement, Shell was recognized as operator of the oil block, while Belema Oil was put in charge of maintenance, production, employment, and security of the Belema flow station and gas plants. The epoch-making peace accord was followed with a visit of a high-level delegation of the federal government led by Chief Timmy Praise Silva to Kula Kingdom to pacify host communities of OML 25 and seek their consent to restart oil and gas production on the oil block. After a successful meeting with largely underdeveloped oil-producing communities in Kula Kingdom, the federal government's delegation returned few weeks after to officially reopen OML 25 for the commencement of oil production on October 10, 2019. According to Group General Manager of the Nigerian Petroleum Investment Management Services, NAPIMS, Mr. Musa Lawan, who stood in for Group Managing Director of the NNPC, Malam Melekiari, the amicable resolution of the dispute on OML 25 and its subsequent reopening signified more revenue inflow for the NNPC and its joint venture partners, as well as the development of its host communities. On that occasion, he had noted that production on the oil facility would commence in 10 days. It was cheering news for all interested parties, as the closure of one of Nigeria's most lucrative oil blocks with a production capacity of 35,000 barrels of oil per day had cost the country about $1.7 billion in 2 years. Till date, however, OML 25 is yet to commence production, Our investigations on why the lucrative Belema flow station continues to remain shut revealed that minor disagreements between Shell Petroleum Development Company, SPDC, and Belema Oil Producing Limited over the employment of locals is responsible for the stalemate. It would be recalled that prior to the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic in the country, the federal government had planned to upscale daily oil production to about 3 million barrels per day for the generation of additional revenues to fund its budgets. For close observers of unfolding events in OML 25, the federal government's inability to commence production on the Belema flow station and gas plant is indeed surprising and worrisome. Fortunately, crude oil pricing in the international market is beginning to appreciate, and the expectation is that the federal government removes all stumbling blocks to the commencement of crude oil and gas production on OML 25 as soon as the global community recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. Inside the Niger Delta.
Well, we hope that the federal government will be able to resolve all issues surrounding the operations of OML 25 in the shortest time possible. Well, with that commentary, we'll draw the curtain on the program. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be back same time, same station next week. Until then, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. Until next week, remember to always wash your hands, maintain proper hygiene, and keep safe social distance to avoid spreading the COVID-19 disease. My name is Mamode Akugha. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now.